back to this episode of Divine Healing on Demand. I am Kiana Del Rey, a holistic healer here to bring you nutrition tips, natural remedies, and non-toxic living solutions. Today, I have Leslie Dowling with me. She's a nutritionist, and we are going to talk about really great ways to eat healthy and the science behind food. So stay tuned to check it out. So I really hope that you all will help me. Welcome, Leslie. I'm so excited to have you here today, Leslie. I want to ask you, so Leslie, tell us about your inspiration to become a nutritionist and your background. Where are you from? Where did you attend school? And why you chose this particular specialty?
Well, I love those questions and thank you. I mean, it was such a pleasure to meet you on Clubhouse. That's just such a virtual mecca out there of social media that I was not, that was not in my, I guess in my 20s. We didn't have all that. But to give you a little bit of insight, background about me, I am a mom of three beautiful boys, 15, 20, and 22. But to take it back a little bit, I think I was raised and instilled with just really respecting Mother Earth, just eating what is in season, which came from my grandmother who emigrated here from Italy and lived on a farm. And when she came here, she showed me how to cultivate the land and grow a little garden in my backyard as a little girl. That is something that I never really thought of, but I just always was very passionate about giving back to the community, just nurturing Mother Earth and instilling to my family that congregating around Sunday table at dinner time, at supper time, was really something that was important to me because we have lost that in the world that we're in today. But way back when, over 25 years ago, I graduated with my bachelor's science degree in marketing. And I was in public relations, market research, product development, working for Fortune 500 companies. But then I took my business hat off to raise three boys. My husband was traveling all over the country in finance. So I really was very fortunate that I could be there for my three boys to helicopter around them. But then I just knew that eating clean, I was always an avid equestrian, played tennis in college, and in midlife now, I'm still riding competitively, that I was really a walking billboard to health and wellness. So about 5 years ago, I went back to school, got my certifications as a functional nutrition and lifestyle practitioner, still getting various other certifications in soil depletion, regenerative crops, the environmental triggers with the 5G towers. So I'm always evolving and growing. And that's kind of what put me into a platform of always being in a public speaking arena, to take that as a health and wellness coach, doing needs assessment strategies for companies for creating optimal health for their executives, to them when we were on lockdown to go virtually and take that platform to have my voice heard globally. And that's what I'm planting the seeds, cross-pollinating, doing now, having some classes for health and wellness. And my middle son is an environmental science major at Wake Forest University. So we started a podcast in 2020 of January. He's very passionate about saving and protecting the wildlife, Mother Earth, the ecosystem, and eating clean. And he is my 20-year-old son at Wake Forest University. And then back in January, I started a second podcast called Keep It Dirty. And I have people speak into health, wellness, nutrition, and mindset shift in our ever-changing world, and just trying to get back into a new norm. So, yeah.
Okay, a little technical difficulty on my end. That's amazing, Leslie. It's so beautiful to hear about how you really grew up with this type of lifestyle and then you decided to jump in and embrace it and learn more and continuing to learn more. That's the one thing about this space, being in the healthcare space or the health and wellness space, constantly learning. If you're not doing continuing education, you're not doing a service to your clients. So I love that you shared, and I'm still learning and I'm still training, because that's a big part of this job too. um Leslie is amazing. She's a certified functional nutritionist and a lifestyle coach and a Reiki practitioner. And I'm so glad that we can have her today to talk about the science behind food right here on this YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. And please do follow Leslie on Instagram at East West Functional. Oh, with the C, y'all. I think I spelled it wrong. That's embarrassing. East West Functional Training. I will fix that. But yes, hilarious. You know what? No one's perfect. And I have released perfection from my reality.
I love your energy. I love it. You're just such a breath of fresh air today, Kiana. So I'm enjoying this.
It's like you gotta keep it real. There we go. There we go.
All right.
Amazing. So I want to talk a little bit about what is nutrition. And nutrition, in my own words, is the study of how nutrients provide nourishment to our bodies through our food. And Leslie's going to really dive deep and tell us a lot of that while I'm asking her questions today. So make sure that you stay tuned, because I really want to talk about what healthy eating really looks like and how to make it accessible and easy for you guys out there listening at home. So knowing the two things about nutrition are macronutrients, which are carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and then our micronutrients, which include our vitamins and nutrients. So that being said, Leslie, I want to ask you, why do you think most people tend to not prioritize their nutrition?
You know what? That's a really great question. And I think that the beauty of why the school that I decided to get my designations, my certifications in, is it's on such a much deeper level. It's sort of like a symphony. Our body is this beautiful vessel with moving parts, bells and whistles. And if one thing is off, say if you are the conductor, and the string instrument, you're missing a couple of components with this string instrument, you're not going to have that symbiosis, that whole gel of everything just working and fine tuned. So not only is it the nutrients, the carbs, the proteins, but I also speak into the lifestyle, really going back to the foundation of, as a child coming into this world, what was your relationship with food? There's so many emotional eaters out there that don't even address that don't even realize that. And the stressors that you might have had growing up in an environment that maybe you saw food as quickly eat, processed foods, having to go from point A to B in a car, eating, the fast food, and not really taking a step back and realizing that in our wheel as a functional nutritionist, we work and practice around a functional matrix. So we're talking about antecedents. We're talking about the epigenome, the epigenetics of your parents. Did they have any pre-existing conditions going on? Siblings, even the birth number and how you came into this world. Maybe you were compromised as a child, having many surgeries or on a lot of antibiotics, that as you grew into an adult, you had a very compromised immune system. And also triggers that I'm very passionate about, the 5G towers, routers, that if you're in a duplex and next to your wall, say next to your bedroom, behind it, the people that live behind you might have their whole desk with their routers set up that might be causing headaches and migraines that you're not even aware of. So when I speak into nutrition, there's so many other components that are so critical to be addressed, because we're all walking journals, and each chapter of our lives are the years that we live, and we have to unravel that to get to really the root cause of clearing, as we say as functional practitioners, the muddy waters.
Wow, I love what you shared, Leslie, about why nutrition isn't a priority for most people. And I really love that you spoke directly about epigenetics, which is the study of changes in organisms caused by modification of gene expression rather than an alteration of genetic code. So what that means, guys, is that yes, you might have a predisposition to type 2 diabetes, to hypertension, but do you live the same lifestyle that was handed down from you, from grandma, from mom? Are you like me, and did you grow up eating fried chicken, mashed potatoes, corn, and mac and cheese at dinner, and not having a really balanced meal plate because we were uneducated, quite frankly, on what real nutrition looks like and how to healthily eat? So when we have the same types of behaviors that maybe our ancestors did, our mom, our dad, our grandmother, these types of illnesses will still express themselves. So I really love that you made a point to say that. And I want to ask you, can you explain the role of nutrition in illness and disease? Because in my humble opinion, and it's backed by a lot of research, the WHO, the CDC will tell you themselves that chronic illnesses always comes back to poor nutrition. So I was hoping that maybe you would speak a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, and I do a lot of posts on my Instagram about podcasting that I follow Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Tom O'Brien, and they talk about how our immune system gets compromised, and unfortunately, especially in the U.S. Over 60% of all the packaged foods that you find in the middle aisles are all just riddled with sugar. The breads, the wheat. There's something called genetically modified. The GMOs that we find in our foods. So we might be thinking we're eating healthy, but in hindsight, just because something's packaged healthy, always read the labels. Try to crowd out those foods that that are not healthy, and start incorporating what Mother Earth is providing seasonally. And yes, sometimes you have to take that weekend, maybe for an hour, to prep some of the foods to get ready for the week. If you're working, if you're going back into an office, to be ready to prep some really healthy foods, the vegetables for your family. Try to look at eating farm raised, and it is more expensive, but if you stop and cut out going through the fast food lanes and going out to dinner, you could then provide for your family to start eating healthier. And there's communities where you could go in on groups that you can pick up your organic produce. I think it's called crop shares, or with other people, to save some money. So it starts with, like, really, what are the nutrients that you are ingesting that you think are healthy? Because twofold, most of the country in the US and globally now have some form, some component of leaky gut syndrome. And that is, our gut is like a mesh. And what happens is there are tears in our gut, and you could be eating really healthy, but your nutrients are being washed away and depleted. So it's not you are what you eat, because some of us can eat things that maybe we're not sensitive to, that have food sensitivities, but it's how your body absorbs the food you're eating. And that's when I say food meets physiology through symbiosis. So I know that's a long-winded answer, but I'm hoping that answers some of your questions.
Yes, I love that, and I love that you talked a lot about that gut brain barrier and how it's tightly wound, and specifically when there are toxins in our food that deplete our foods of having the right nutrients, like glyphosate and different pesticides do. It hinders the food from being able to protect itself because there's a lack of amino acids in the plant, and then when we eat those plants, there's a lack of amino acids that we're getting, which breaks down that membrane, right? And that's when stuff starts to leak through. And so I really love that you spoke to that. I want to shout out to Thermotosh. I want to share, maybe, hold on. This is not my day, y'all. It's not my day. Let's see. I want to share this photo, maybe. Hold on, y'all. And because I want to give you a visual while I speak about this really quickly. And so I want to talk about what Leslie was just talking about, the types of foods that we typically eat in our diet that we shouldn't be eating. So eat less crap, eat more food. I want to shout out to Thermotosh at thermotosh.com for this wonderful graphic that I have using because I did not have time to make one of my own. So shout out to Thermotosh and thank you, darling. We are shouting you out. So eat less crap. So crap, C, meaning I love teaching people this acronym because it helps you think. It helps you think about this daily. So C, carbonated drinks. Not just soda, guys. I'm always preaching, like, I think it's great that you're drinking seltzer water. I think it's amazing that you have seltzer water, but please drink regular water in addition to, and limit that seltzer water, because when you drink seltzer water, the CO2 that gives you the bubbles that you so love is ending up in your bloodstream, and you're not giving yourself the correct amount of hydration for oxygenation to happen in your blood. So hydrate correctly. Take the carbonated drinks out. Refined, I'm going to expand on this. Refined sugars and grains, making sure that you are eating whole organic sugars and whole grains, because when we refine grains, when we switch from the still mill to from the stone milling to the still milling, we lost a lot of bran and germ in our grain, which we need to be able to support our gut correctly and support our immune system. And so really cutting out the refined sugars, which are going to keep you from absorbing your nutrients, especially vitamin C. Refined sugars are really bad about that. So if you see things that end in OSE, sucrose, glucose, maltose, dextrose, all of those, if you can't pronounce a child, just leave it at the store. Look, that's what I tell people. If it's got some stuff in there, you're like, henna holla, henna late, it needs to stay at the stores. If you wouldn't buy that chemical to put in your food, then just leave it. And so other things to think about are the artificial sweeteners, colors, and dyes. Artificial dyes have an impact on our bodies as well, and are known to cause sensitivities and other health issues as well. And then I always expand upon this one, not just processed foods, but preservatives as well, making sure that you're not eating too many foods with too many preservatives and too much sodium content. So eating more food, fresh fruits and vegetables, organic, lean, protein, preferably grass-fed, but I'm not judging anybody. Omega-3s and fatty acids in your diet, and drinking lots of water. So these are really quick ways that we can kind of remember: eat less crap, eat more food. When we're in the store, like, ooh, does this meet that criteria? Maybe not. Let me put it back on the shelf. Leslie, you have a shout out here. Jason says, hi, Leslie. Great to see you. From Jason. He's amazing. He's from India and he tunes in to my shows, and I'm so grateful for his support. And so I have another question for you, and I want to ask you, using a percentage, how important is proper nutrition to overall health outcomes?
Wow. I mean, that's paramount, because it's like putting the wrong gasoline or diesel in your car if it only, if it only uses gasoline. So you're ruining your engine inside with refined sugars, which ages you. it depletes us from minerals that we're actually depleted from because the microorganisms in the soil are depleted. So it's really a domino effect. That is such a huge percentage. But it's also that mindset shift, the mental mindset shift of the why, your purpose. Why are you coming to me as a client to want to make those changes? How are you feeling? Because it's a domino effect of autoimmune illness, which is opening up Pandora's box. So those processed foods are wreaking havoc on our system. And you see the younger generation, children having Crohn's disease, diverticulitis at such an early age because it is so prevalent here in our country. There's so many things that are banned in European countries that you could still find on the shelves in the US. So yeah, that is really paramount. But for me, I try to meet my clients, and when I speak to the public arena, really just we are all so unique and bio-individual, and meeting somebody where they're in their comfort zone to take possibly those baby steps, because you might know, yes, I have to eat healthy, and what you're putting in your mouth is the first thing that is so key. And I hate the word diet, because this is a lifestyle change for the rest of your life to live optimally. So it starts from top to bottom, and also what you're putting on topically, what you're ingesting. Our skin is our largest organ, and being mindful of that too, which is so critical to read the products, not only what you're putting in your mouth, but what you're putting on topically.
Share the diet mentality. Let's not think about diets anymore. Let's think more about what kind of lifestyle am I leading? What kind of food am I putting in my body to make me feel better? And for me personally, this came up because I was dealing with a plethora of gut issues. I really started to have pain and inflammation starting. I have an autoinflammatory disease, and it seems like I'm having some autoimmune things go on, but they can't pinpoint where it's coming from. And so when all these things started to happen to me, I had this day where I was like, I'm just sick of this. Like, I was just like, I'm just sick of being sick, and I'm going to change something. And for me, it was following a different lifestyle change. I used one of the diets out there, but I don't necessarily think of it as like eating that diet. It's just like I used it as a framework to set myself up for anti-inflammatory eating. And so I love that we're talking about ditch that diet mentality, because I think here in the States, at least, or in the Western world, we're always looking for a quick fix. We're always looking for, oh, what's something I can do for 30 days? What's a pill I can take? What's a drink I can drink? What's a detox I can do? Because we want a quick fix. But the truth is that these things take time. It took us a while to get broken. It takes us a while to heal. And these healing processes are a lot like hygiene, and we have to continue to work them throughout our life. So adapting them as lifestyles. I love that you said that. I want to ask you a question specifically about this. You hear a lot of people talking about intermittent fasting. Is this something that you recommend? What are the health benefits of intermittent fasting? And who are the ideal candidates for this type of eating?
That's an excellent question. And I always preface to my clients any paperwork, any protocols. When I initially meet with clients, I always say, maybe just get a complete blood count. Let's see what's going on with the terrain of your blood work. Also, seek advice of an MD before starting on this next. Like we're sort of the middlemen, the functional nutritionists between the client and the MDs. So we're really the detectives, really speaking into what's going on with that person who is so unique and bio-individual, which is really key. So, at the end of the day, people that might be predisposed to diabetes, diabetics, they have those shifts with their sugar levels. You have to be careful on the intermittent fasting. Now we were hunter-gatherers, thousands of years ago. So, just maybe eating an earlier dinner, stopping at 7 p.m., just drinking liquids, or if you want like chamomile tea at night, water, until the next morning, until like, even if you could wait until 10 o'clock in the morning, just to have that chunk of time that your body is restoring and rest, because you don't want to have a big meal right before you go to bed. Your body goes on overdrive trying to digest something that is just sitting in your system as you're trying to sleep. So just be cautious, be careful. But at the end of the day, if you stop grazing after 7 o'clock until 14 hours, 15 hours later, that's a great chunk of time that we call intermittent fasting.
I love that. Wow. I don't necessarily I never know how people ask me all the time, like, well, should I intermittent fast? And I'm like, you should decide that for yourself. I
Yeah.
haven't decided how I'm advocating for it yet, because I really feel like I'm not going to tell someone that they shouldn't intermittent fast if there's someone who knows their body and they feel like they can go longer in between meals, but it's like, I'm not sure how I feel about that over a long period of time and as a lifestyle.
No.
So I just, and I'm not qualified to speak to exactly which persons are ideal for that. And so I always just tell people to keep reading and continue having those conversations with their doctors. I feel like for me, I can kind of consider myself as a health educator more than a coach, because I think that if I
Mhm.
could bring information to people that they can then take back to their medical support team, their doctors, their therapists, and be able to engage in conversations that empower them and put them in completely engaged in their health and in their lifestyle, that's a positive thing, because I believe that we should all be engaged in our health, because I think a lot of us go to the doctors and we're like, all right, doc, what are we going to do?
Sure. Yeah.
What are we going to do, doc? Tell me what I'm supposed to do now. And like, you need to ask him questions. You need to ask him about your medications and things like that, and be a part of it. And so the more that you know, the more questions you can ask. And so I think it's super important that you talked about being in the middle between the medical practitioner and the patient, because sometimes you're that liaison that helps provide them the information. So I want to ask you a little bit more along these lines. I have another question for you specifically about these different diets. So some people go vegan. There are different. I'm hearing a lot of different health impacts, especially for people with chronic illnesses. A lot of holistic healers are telling them to go vegan, and I'm not necessarily here to negate that or support that. But I want to ask you, for the people who are going vegan, what are good meat and dairy replacements so that they are still getting proper nutrition and proteins from these foods?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not a vegan either. People just assume because I'm fit, I'm into health, I'm, a Reiki practitioner, I must be vegan. No, because we do need the fats, the good fats that are found, the bone broth, the meats. Studies show that long-term depletion of these good fats also trigger early onset of dementia and Alzheimer's. So we really have to be very um, um, educated on what's going on out there. Lentils, grains, that's great protein replacements. And compared to when I started this journey 30 years ago, I'd walk into a supermarket, they didn't have the coconut milk, the hemp milk, sunflower milk. I mean, the sky's the limit. But you need to back it up a little bit and see if you have inflammation issues, food sensitivities. And the best way to do that is slowly take out the dairy, slowly take out the sugars, and just slowly see if what you're feeling. And what I do is I have a chart that I ask all my patients to fill out for 3 to 5 days, called the Food Mood Poop Journal. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's a lot that can be said to, are you eliminating, are you drinking enough water every day, that you might go through the day and only have 2 glasses of water and not realize, I'm really constipated. Why? So you have to find balance. The dairy, there are so many options out there. I am sensitive to the beta casein, so I have to be careful. There's A1 or A2 milk out now, and it's where the cows are grazed, because so many of the meats now are just filled with so much junk, that they are not getting grass-fed, the grains. It's just totally grains, so it's not the grasses anymore. And the omega-3s versus the omega-6s were so deplete. So yeah, just be your own advocate. And when you go in, try to start looking into the organic aisles for replacements that are healthy.
Oh, I love what you shared about that. I'm always preaching about eating organic, and I'm sure I get on people's nerves, and they're like, organic's expensive. But I'm like, you know what? What else is expensive? Insurance premiums, deductibles, co-pays, and medications. So, do you want to be preventative or do you want to be reactive? I think that's where you have to answer yourself, because somewhere you're going to make the investment. You're going to pay somewhere. And so you have to kind of make that decision for yourself. Where do I want to put the bulk of my payment? So I want to ask you another question, because you brought up something really good. You asked, do you have inflammation? And this is kind of something that's in my own lifestyle. So for me, I was having a lot of gut pain and inflammation, and that's when I really turned to the paleo lifestyle. Not super strict about it, but I do follow that framework pretty closely. I use a lot of substitutions to help me stick to this and things like that. And like legumes are just something I haven't eaten a legume in forever, but I will tell y'all the truth right now. Like, my first word was cheese, not mom, not dad, cheese. So I still eat very minimal dairy. But because I'm not having a lot of too much mucus excretion, I feel like I'm okay. But I try really hard not to eat like dairy a ton in 1 week. Like, I don't eat a piece of cheese every day type of thing. I try to limit it to like once or twice a week. So just for me, for my own inflammation purposes. So my question is to you, paleo or the autoimmune protocol diet, these anti-inflammatory protocols, how do you feel about these eating frameworks?
Sometimes it's sort of like a fad or a style, like the pencil skirt was in for a while. Then everybody jumped on that bandwagon and then got tired of that. And then the flare jeans were in. And some of us have genetic tendencies like methylation issues. They have to be careful of what they're putting into their bodies. So what I like to do is do a little a la carte, really key in on what sensitivities, inflammatory issues people have, and then create a special program for each person. Because at the end of the day, our body thrives on variety, balance, and eating whole foods. Okay, so the less that we can stay away from these fad diets, the better our body will then kind of rebalance and get into a long life, pattern. Now, that's not to say if you have really pre-existing conditions, autoimmune issues, that you have to stay away from certain, like the nightshades or, that I totally understand. But I think we just have to take a step back, be our own advocate, and not just jump for the shining, object that Sally and Ken are doing the paleo and they're just doing great. But you got to figure out what's right for your body.
Very much so. And this is why, like, even though for me, like, I try to eat paleo, you'll never hear me preach paleo, paleo, paleo to people, because I really feel like it comes down to listening to your body. And the only reason for me that I ended up following that was because the things it told me to cut were the things that they just were making me have problems. And I was like,
Aw.
oh, maybe I should cut these things, because they're definitely triggering some issues over here. And so I feel like it's very much about like, listen to your body. Those
Yeah.
systems are calling to you, you know, it's trying to tell you something. So listen to your body. I'm so glad that you talked about the fad diets, because I'm always telling people like, ditch that diet mentality. And so you really spoke to my next question, like keto, Atkins, all of these different things. Like, what do we do? And I think that, you know, I'm not here to knock anyone's hustle or to say like you're doing it wrong, but I just think that the keto, first of all, I have a lot of problems with ketosis. I'm not going to speak on that. I don't want to offend anybody, but I have a lot of problems with the idea of ketosis, and it does not even sound logically good for anyone's body when you think about it from a logical standpoint.
Sure.
And so, I don't typically endorse that, but I'm not here to say that you're doing it wrong if you are a keto person. It's just not something that I particularly promote. I promote people eating foods that make them feel good and that are good for their bodies and good for their nutrition. And I promote cutting out foods that make you feel bad, and like whatever that food is for you,
Right.
cut it out. And so, and that's what I'm here to share. So I'm so glad that you said that, because that was just so beautiful. I want to talk about nutrients specifically for a minute. I'm going to share this wonderful chart here. It talks about the different vitamins and things like that and where we can get them. And so vitamin A, you know, in our eggs and our papayas, carrots, liver. Question, Leslie, how do you feel about milk from cows? Because to me, drinking cow's milk is somewhat controversial. I use milk substitutions because one, I just can't handle milk. Like it's a
Yeah.
whole thing, and so it's a whole drama to digest
Another-
over here. Talk about bathroom blues, y'all.
Oh yeah.
And so, but we are the only species that drinks another species' milk. So I'm curious, how do you feel about that?
You know, like you say, you know, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, and they have to do what's right for their kids, for themselves. But there's raw milk, there's goat's milk, you know, the homogenized, the ultra processed. You know, we go back to crap. I mean, there's so many components that is taken out of all the good things that are put into natural products that, you know, years ago in the 70s, everything was mass produced and everybody thought, oh, that's great, you know, processed. And for me personally, my family has allergies and sensitivities. So, you know, staying away from as much dairy, the better off we are. Like you were saying, we don't have that nasally congestion, especially now triggers if you do have sensitivities in the springtime. If you could cut that as much as you can and curb that, because really we don't need all of this milk. We were just radiated through, you know, all the commercials. Milk is good for you. Drink your milk. You'll look like this superstar. You know, that's not the way it is. So that's my take on it. And I just wanted to quickly add, you know, there was something for years called the Dirty Dozen. So, oh, well, you know, I could have those bananas with the thick skin, even though it's not organic. However, I go back to the soil being so depleted in the nutrients that if it's not organic, so even if it has the skin on it, okay, and if it's not organic, the soil is so depleted that we're not getting those nutrients. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Dirty Dozen?
You know, I don't know if I'm familiar with that, but I love what you're sharing about the soil specifically, because I do know a little bit about that. I have been looking into um, really about how chemical farming has impacted our nutrition. And so, the process of no longer swapping the crops and the process of treating the soil with chemicals to get it ready to mass produce produce, and how it depletes our food of basically healing itself like our bodies will. And it's like a breakdown in the amino acids, that essentially the same thing that happens in our gut that makes it like permeable in the holes, it happens in the cell walls of the plants. And that's why they break down and become susceptible to pests and things like that, which then call for what? More pesticides. So it's like this cycle. But will you tell us a little bit more about the Dirty Dozen?
Yeah, so basically it's food groups like, grapes, bananas, strawberries, any kind of vegetables and fruits that I guess there's this misnomer that, like, for bananas, that has a thick skin. So it really doesn't need to be organic, because whatever is sprayed on it, it's not going to, get to the core of the banana. However, I go back to, and what you were saying so brilliant, so beautifully, is the microbial terrain of what's going on in the soil is deplete. And so even if it's, the Dirty Dozen with the thick skin, whatever, on the fruits and vegetables, they're still lacking those nutrients. So it's better just to jump on the bandwagon, get out of that mindset. And if you could go all organic, do it.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. That's crazy that they used to say that about, like, it's got thick skin, it's fine, just spray it down.
Yeah, like, it's got a skin, you can peel it, and you can eat that banana. Well, banana's lacking a lot of things that you wonder why. And that's another thing, brain gut health. That is something that I also speak into. So if your brain is not clear, you have fog, fatigue, depression, it's because there are minerals that we are not getting. And that can offset the balance with our chemistry, our body chemistry, the microbial terrain of what's going on in our gut, because there are 500 nerve cells that are found in our gut. And it's like Dr. Mark Hyman says, that is our second brain. And there's so much research out there right now that you really have to keep up with your studies. And so what's going on with your gut is having a direct correlation with your brain. But the cleaner you eat, the more your senses are heightened, the more you have that clarity, that sense of in your early 20s when you could just go and have that energy. So why wouldn't we want to get back to that?
Right. I completely agree. Talking about that gut brain axis, that HPA axis, it's like hippocampus adrenal axis. And so it's really cool because it's really funny to think about the fact that our stomach is just like, hey, brain, what you doing? Sending you some hormones real quick. Like, how you doing up there? Like, I think we're going to be depressed today.
I love it.
And like,
It's true.
it's like, hey, I don't have enough good bacteria over here. I think I'm gonna get sick today. So I'm always telling people, like, your immunity, all disease, all illness, all sickness always starts in your gut and your microbiome first. And so it's really important to make sure that you're prioritizing that. So quickly, to tell you guys a bit about the nutrients that we need in our healthy food. So vitamin A for normal growth and development, vitamin B1 for growth appetite, found in peas, potatoes, meats, and soybeans, vitamin B2 in green vegetables, meats, and cheeses. It's great for healthy skin, mouth, and eyes. Vitamin B is in potatoes, peanuts, bananas, vegetables. Really great for supporting our metabolism and nervous system. Vitamin B6, which is great for proper metabolism of amino acids. And then those come in like your dry fruits, dry nuts, pulses, and things like that. B12, great for red blood cells, nitrogen metabolization, and healthy tissue, nervous tissue. Vitamin C for our immunity, for healthy growth, for good gums and teeth, and blood vessels, as you guys know, found in a lot of citric fruits, tomatoes, guavas, um, grapes, and things like that. Vitamin D also found in sunlight, great for immunity. It's always great for immunity. People forget to go outside to keep their immune system strong. Please get outside in the sun, y'all. Okay, I'm done ranting. Um, also found in eggs, cod liver, and milk, but probably skip the milk if you can. Vitamin E for proper reproduction, and bananas, soybeans, almonds, and wheat germ oil, and then vitamin K for normal blood coagulation, found in tomatoes, soybeans, spinach, meat, turnips, and lettuce. But I want to ask you now, Leslie, my question to you is, which nutrients are people most likely to be deficient for?
Right off the bat, vitamin D. And when you look into a functional lens versus the allopathic lens, and you look at the levels that are so critical, we're looking at, as functional doctors or nutritionists, practitioners, in the 50 range, 50 to 60. When you go to just a doctor, allopathic, they might say, 30s, 40s is fine. But it's the magnesium, it's the zinc. We're so depleted in so many avenues of our health and wellness. So those are the couple of that just kind of pop into my head right away.
Yeah, and zinc, if you're low on zinc and you're getting sick a lot, you may want to ask yourself, like, oh, like, am I getting enough zinc in my food? Do I need to supplement zinc and see what's going on? Because if you don't typically get sick and all of a sudden you're getting sick, you may have a zinc deficiency. Those are things that are happening. Or even, like, a lot of people don't realize that magnesium impacts like muscle cramping. And so, like, if you, like, most people think straight ahead, like, oh, I have a cramp, I'm low on potassium. But, like, they might not think, like, oh, I'm low on magnesium as well. And so I'm always talking about how magnesium is great during menstrual cramps, y'all. I always take a little magnesium, a little potassium together as a little natural remedy to help me be able to fight through that. But yeah, I'm really glad that you shared that, because I think it's important for people to realize that sunlight is really important to our health, and it's where we get a lot of our vitamin D from. So continuing to get outside. So I want to ask you one more question, I think. Oh, I had another question.
Before you do, Epsom salt baths are excellent for that magnesium to body to absorb. So the lavender oil, there are essential oils out there. Just be careful when you go out. Don't get the oils that are on sale that you just right off the shelf. Do your due diligence, and there are great oils. I don't rep it, but I know there's doTERRA. I go through a rep. I love their oils, and Epsom salts are excellent.
That's amazing. I didn't even think about the fact that we could absorb the magnesium from Epsom salts through our skin. And so I'm always taking baths because I'm just the bath and
me too
daily. And so I think it's because I have like water in my astrology chart. Like, I have cancer, and so I'm like obsessed with water. Like, I need to live near it, or I feel like. And I'm always taking like loads of showers and baths a day because I just love the water. So I love that you shared that. My last question to you is, how can we create a routine that ensures that we get all of our nutrients, minerals, and calories that we need in our diet each day?
Well, and I'm sure you've heard of this, and we practice what we try to preach here, is eat the colors of the rainbow. Eat what's in season. Eat variety. Get your grains, your lentils, incorporate that into your diet. Plenty of water, the fruits and vegetables out there. And in the US, we have these huge dinner plates. You don't need much. You could take a mid-sized plate and prepare the foods and use some of the wonderful oils that are out there, the avocado oil when prepping food, some of the wonderful types of olive oil, and just start slow. Just it can be very overwhelming starting this whole new process of this organic, healthy lifestyle. But just start reading those packages in the aisles before you throw that into your shopping cart and purchase it.
Amazing. Taking a shopping list with you guys, y'all, to the store and planning out like what healthy foods am I picking up? Using Leslie's advice and making sure that you're eating from all the colors of the rainbow. I once heard an occupational therapist speak, and he talked about like how when you have picky children, like, and I was a picky child. Some people would argue that I'm still a picky child. and so, and so it's so funny because like I grew up picky, and then I grew up to have all these food insensitivity problems, and so it just made for a bunch of drama whenever I go to eat something. But I heard this occupational therapist speak, and he said, if your kids hate broccoli, put cheese on it. People want to preach like, well, cheese, once you put cheese on broccoli, it's not healthy anymore. Well, the nutrients that were in the broccoli are still in the broccoli, whether the cheese is on top of it or not. And he said, either do that, put what they like on top of it, or encourage them. He said, put the food around the plate in a clockwise motion. And he said, and encourage them to take a bite from all the places around the clock. And he was like, that way, at least, even if they're just getting one bite, they're getting some of the nutrients from each one of the food groups. And you're not necessarily pressurizing them to eat all the foods. You're just pressurizing them to keep trying it. And so hopefully that it'll grow on them type thing. And I thought that was really great feedback. Not even at the time.
I could have used that years ago when I was trying to get my kids to eat certain foods.
So it's so funny because I'm like 29 years old, but I'll do the same thing whenever I'm in situations where there's group food. I hate group food situations for one reason, because when you have sensitivities like group food, it's just not, not your go. And so anytime there's group food, I try to get what I can eat. And if it's something that I don't think I'd like, but it's something I can eat, I'll put a little bit on my plate, and I'll just do that little technique. I'll go around. I tried it. I'm pushing 30. But whatever you can do to be able to encourage yourself because I'll be honest with you, I hated broccoli my entire life. Most people don't have childhood memories. I'm like an elephant. I'm a Virgo. I remember everything. I can tell you what someone said in third grade. So verbatim. And so got a long memory. And so I'll never forget. I have a specific memory of being in a high chair as a baby and being fed with a spoon broccoli, and me just pushing the broccoli back out with my lips.
A great memory, because usually before 2 or 3, you don't remember things, but wow.
It's because specifically, I don't think I'll ever use high chairs for my kids or cribs, because I thought it was so traumatizing. Like I remember kicking my legs, being like, "Let me out of here! Let me I need my autonomy back. Like, why can't I move around?" And so, because they're trying to keep you in one place to feed you. But I specifically remember the high chair because I hated it so much.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
And I remember crawling out of remember how my crib smelled. It smelled like spilled milk, and I remember crawling out of it as a baby, like trying to get out of it. And so I gave my mom a run for her money. So
yeah, I was going to say your mom was a busy mom with you, I'm sure.
And so, especially with how picky of an eater I was, but there was a point where, and this will be my last question for you for today. There was a point in my life when I was a kid where I was super picky, and I grew up, in the early 90s. I was born in 92. And back in those days, I have a boomer for a mom, and
Mhm.
they were raised like, you eat all your food, like you're grateful for it because like
Oh
this is
yeah.
what we can afford, and like this is it. And I was so picky. Like I will never forget. I was 6 years old, and I came home from school, and there were pinto beans. And I really did not want these pinto beans. I did not want anything to do with these pinto beans. And she was like, "Well, you can't get up from the table until you eat these pinto beans." And I was like, oof. It's gonna be a long night. Like I was like, and I went to sleep right there at the table, slept there all
Oh.
night long, and didn't eat the pinto beans. Like I was like, And so the next day, she's like, you have to eat them for dinner tonight. And I was like, no, ma'am, no, ma'am. And so like the next day, I was like, all right, I just gotta make it till when I get to school tomorrow, and you eat lunch. Like I was like, I'll be fine. And then after that, I think my mom realized that I was like so stubborn that like if I said I wasn't doing it, I
Yeah.
really meant it. Like I meant it. Like I would take whatever punishment came. I wasn't eating it. And so
Oh,
at that point, she invited me to be a part of the food decision making, being like, what would you like to eat? What would you like to have? And I would ask for good things. Like I'd be like, can we do chicken? Like, can we do this? Because like
aw,
there were just certain things I didn't really like, and there were certain things I liked more than others. And
yeah,
so I think inviting your kids to be a part of making the menu really
that's
helped.
key.
Yeah. And even having routines, like maybe chicken night on Mondays, and like, or however you can make some sort of routine. But my
Yeah.
question to you is, do you think it's a good idea to try and force kids to eat things? Because we want our children to have, well, I don't have any kids, but most people want their children to have proper nutrition. But how would you go about dealing with a picky eater if they have one that's like me?
Well, two of my three sons were picky eaters. So, I mean, I totally can resonate. I've been there, done it. But I kind of use reverse psychology. I was not this anal like mom saying, you must eat all organic. And when you go to someone's house, you are not allowed to eat this, this, and this. For parties, we would have soda. That's when I would bring it into the house, but I didn't always have soda. If they wanted some ice cream, when we were out, yes, they could have ice cream. But you could, mask it or hide it. I would make smoothies, and I would put broccoli. No, I wouldn't put. I would put certain foods and vegetables in there to mask it, and it took a while for me to understand, like, because there weren't a lot of cookbooks 20 years ago on like these incredible smoothies you can make for your kids. So that's the way I kind of introduced healthier, eating into their habits. But I never forced them. I mean, my youngest was on, but I would get the organic, like the chicken nuggets and the Annie's mac and cheese, and so he was very limited. But I'll tell you, they've come a full circle because two of them are really into healthy eating now. They're into fitness, and it's really gratifying for the older boys to come back and say, Mom, you've taught me so much. And they did go to something called the Young Chef Academy, which kids would learn how to use like knives and make meals, and so they love to be in the kitchen and they love to cook. So that's one wonderful thing that my kids now have kind of said, Mom, thanks. I thought you were a pain when we were little, but you've really taught us a lot about just living a healthy lifestyle too.
That's so beautiful that you were able to probably, and it sounds like healthy eating's been passed down through your lineage. So you are very blessed to have a family that has been educated from the beginning, and that you don't have to fight like the generational problems of unhealthy eating. I love that you're able to pass that on to your children. So that's such a beautiful share. Everyone, please go make sure that you are following Leslie on Instagram at East West Functional Training. Make sure that you are following her. She's amazing. Amazing certified functional nutritionist, lifestyle practitioner, and Reiki practitioner. She's just been a doll. And please look in the description of this video. You'll be able to find how to get in touch with Leslie and work with her in the future. If for some reason you feel like you want to learn more about how to eat to heal your body, I am hosting an event next Thursday, which you can find the link to grab the ticket to also in the description. And if you would like to book a one-on-one Be Set Free strategy call with me to talk about how to eat, how to clean up your environment, and what natural remedies and supplements and things that you can do with your life to be able to promote healing, book a call with me and we'll start to set up a strategy for you. I'm so blessed to be able to just really spend this time with Leslie. She's amazing. Please follow her. Please tap in with her link in the description and make sure that you really take advantage of the free resource that she's giving out. And yes, do you have any final thoughts, Leslie?
You know what? Just live your life to the fullest, and try to just be your own advocate for health and wellness. And, we have one life to live. So why not be the hero of your journey, of your life's journey? And there are so many wonderful people out there that you can reach out to. And, Google and start doing a little more searching and taking a deeper dive into health and wellness. So thank you so much. This was such a wonderful topic to really take a deeper dive into. I'm passionate about it. You are. And I really enjoyed this time. Thank you.
Yes, and Jason from India said, "We heart you, Leslie. East West
Oh,
Functional LLC rocks." And so we are so grateful for the work that you do. So grateful that there's so many of us trying. We are the movement. Me, you, the whole health network, the people out here that are pushing forward and teaching, nutrition, teaching, hey, you need to clean up the toxins in your environment. Hey, there are natural things that you can do to be able to combat some of these things that are going on. And when we start to have these conversations, we are empowering people to not just take and listen to what the experts say on their health and wellness, but to become an expert on themselves, their own body, and be able to advocate and have conversations with their medical practitioners, with their therapists, with the people who are involved in their medical care. And that's what it's all about. It's about promoting conversations. So we're so grateful for Jason and his support, which he says he is always just so happy to support. I'm so grateful for you too, Jason. I'm
thank
grateful
you.
for you, Leslie. Please make sure you're following Leslie. Be sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell on Nature's Divine Healing on Demand, where I talk every week about natural remedies, nutrition tips, and non toxic living solutions with different experts like Leslie. And we've had other folks in the past. And next week, we have a pretty awesome nurse practitioner coming up to speak about some fun things as well. So I hope that you all have a blessed day. And thank you for tuning in. But until next time, we'll see ya. Goodbye.